Minister, we have a lawyer on the line. We have Craig on the line who has some concerns about these new regulations. Craig, the sectors in which foreigners are permitted to establish businesses is decided on by the Department of Trade and Industry has also not been done. You've got concerns around that.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for allowing me onto your show. The Minister Gigaba has made it very clear that, in his view, that the regulations are sound, and he seems to be very confident that it will pass constitutional muster. My issue is, apart from the regulations, I'm quite concerned where the Minister has gone on record and said that we've tested both the primary legislation, the Immigration Act, that has gone before Parliament with the NCOP, and they've consulted with senior counsel. In terms of the Constitution, we are both the legislation and regulations. He's gone on record, Mr. How 29th of May with regard to the regulations, the Municipal Act, there's a 2007 amendment, a 2004 amendment, a 2007 amendment, a 2011 amendment, and a 2014 immigration regulations, and God knows how a normal foreigner is supposed to navigate around those pieces of law. But be that as it may, I would like to ask the Minister how he envisages, how can he explain Section 27 of the Immigration Act and Section 27B, which are they are erroneous, because 27A effectively refers to a repeal section in its operation. So I don't know how he envisages 27A even existing in the first place. And the second point is that the department has failed to repeal Section 27B, which pertains to exceptional skills. So what you actually have, and it's surprising to hear that it's gone through all the checks and balances, that there are still those glaring mistakes in terms of the primary legislation. So, I mean, I haven't even got onto the regulations yet, and I'm surprised that the department hasn't picked this up.
I'm going to obviously refer immediately through to the Minister. Minister, your response to that?
I think what we shouldn't confuse are people who believe that we should have a piece of legislation which makes it easy for people from Europe to come to South Africa and make it difficult for people from Africa to come to South Africa. What we are doing in terms of this legislation and the regulations is to streamline the types of visas that we give to people coming into our country, to separate temporary residence visas from the permanent residence permits. And we are making it now a law that companies operating in South Africa must employ 60% South Africans as part of their total workforce, and that children that are traveling into South Africa and out of our country must be in possession of a passport, in possession of an unabridged birth certificate, and if they are not traveling with their parents, they must possess, the people traveling with them must be in possession of an affidavit which has been signed by the parents of the children in order to contribute in the global campaign against child trafficking and smuggling. Now, I don't know what would be irrational and unconstitutional in all of this. If people from elsewhere have to apply to South Africa for visas, they will from now onward apply in terms of the 2007 and 2011 amendment legislation and the regulations which have been passed, gazetted on Monday, the 26th this year. But I think that we need to continue discussing so that we can clarify all of the confusion which exists in terms of these regulations.
I think there appears to be quite a bit of confusion, which is why we're addressing it now. This is probably not a long enough forum to address all the issues around it. Craig, I believe there was also an issue regarding the requirements for a spousal or partner permit. Can you just clarify what your concern is with regards to that?
Well, here's the short answer. You may be in a spousal relationship, and as we know, there are binding cases in South Africa protecting the rights of dignity for spouses. Home Affairs has effectively said that if you cannot demonstrate, let's assume you're not married, but you're in a permanent relationship, and let's assume you have 2 kids, but you haven't made 2 years of a permanent relationship, then you will not qualify for that application. And let's look at the situation that we would have. That family would either have to now, as of today or as of Monday, would have to all leave the country, apply abroad, or the family is broken up, and they have to, and the foreign person would have to apply abroad, and as of today or as of Monday, the actual act is incomplete because it's erroneous, because of certain obvious inconsistencies. And most of all, my main concern here is that the both parties, both spouses, have this expectation of protection of rights of dignity. Now they are abused, and if they have children, then it gets worse. I have a specific client. They've come to South Africa and they're undergoing in vitro fertilization, and they specifically engage with a medical institution, and the foreigner is on a visitor permit, and effectively, what Minister Gigaba is saying is that they now need to leave, abandon the in vitro fertilization, wait abroad, of which the immigration regulations are incomplete because there's outstanding gazetted matters. Let's not even talk about constitutionality. And I don't think that a department, in its stated intention, in terms of its preamble, stemming all the way back from 2004, wanted to set a new era of human rights culture and move away from the good old days of the Aliens Control Act, which was incredibly restrictive and enforcement orientated. And
Craig, I'm just going to take your point about the spousal permits and refer it through to the Minister and give him an opportunity to respond to that.
We've had many instances of marriages of convenience in South Africa, where people come into our country, get involved in marriages of convenience, pay people to claim that they are their spouses, and on the basis of that and that alone, demand that they should be given permanent residence in South Africa. We're trying to combat that. We've got to take steps to combat criminality. There are very serious concerns globally about security, and we must be able to protect the integrity of our country and our sovereignty as a nation. This legislation does not, I repeat, does not apply retrospectively. So people who have been involved in relationships before Monday will not be affected by this legislation except in instances when their visas and permits expire or lapse, in which case they must now reapply in terms of the regulations which were gazetted on Monday. Therefore, there is the only people who will now be affected in terms of spouses by these regulations are those who are going to enter into permanent relationships as of after Monday the 26th. They will now have to comply. We understand that there are inconveniences that people are going to experience and suffer, but there are also inconveniences that we will suffer as a country as a result of lack of security. And that is what we are trying to address in order that we balance. There is nobody who is precluded from coming to South Africa properly following our piece of legislation. Everybody is welcome. We've even taken an extra step to open new visa facilitation services around the country, which are going to start next week, in order that anybody who wants to come and work or live or visit our country should be able to do so. But what we are doing is that there is an important need to streamline how people enter South Africa. It cannot be a free-for-all. We are a country with laws which is sovereign, and we need to ensure that we protect that sovereignty.
Minister, thank you very much for your time in responding. And Craig, thank you very much for joining us on the line and presenting those problems. There clearly are some grey areas that need to be sorted out, but thank you for providing some clarity on something which is fairly complex. That was Minister of Home Affairs Malusi Gigaba and lawyer Craig Smith. Well, coming up after the break, Western Cape Police have conceded shortcomings in policing at the Khayelitsha Commission of Inquiry. Stay tuned to ANN7 Prime.